All right. You want to lead me in with some music? Oh, do I have one ear working? That's weird. Okay, we're good. All right. Let me stay in the pocket. Here we go. Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the show. Hey, how are you guys doing? I hope everybody's having a good summer. I hope things are going smooth for you this summer. Maybe you've had a chance to go out and do some traveling. Graduations are now over. Father's Day is come and gone. We've had a fantastic Independence Day celebration. I got to tell you something. The fireworks display in Morgan Hill this year was completely off the hook. I could not believe how much went into that. And instead of drawing it out for a very, very long show that had a lot of music and kind of sending out an explosion in the air once or twice here or there, they went for it. I mean, from the very beginning, choreographed to music, it was just an extravaganza. I kind of feel the patriotism in the United States peaking again. Remember back in the 80s when everybody was wearing American flag t-shirts and everything, the era of Reagan when patriotism was going through the roof and the United States was winning gold medals in the Olympics, and people were going nuts. It was just absolutely fantastic. I kind of feel that same sentiment today in the United States of America, and it's really cool to see. Everybody's so excited about the country coming back. Our job numbers are through the roof. A couple of weeks ago, reported over 100,000 more jobs than had been anticipated. We've got unemployment down at its lowest, and manufacturing is coming back to the United States of America. It's fantastic. But with that, we're going to get into a topic today of today's show that is going to be a little bit more serious and heavy, but I think it's important that people know about it. In the intro of my program, it talks about me being a probate real estate specialist, and today we're going to touch on probate again. We did a 30,000-foot overview on the subject a few weeks ago, and it was very highly replayed on social media, on SoundCloud, where I record my audio of this show once we're done. So it's podcasted. It's on SoundCloud, but you can find me on realestateconnectionradio.com. All of my past shows are there. And it's I'm trying to get myself on the iTunes right now, but I'm having a technical glitch with iTunes in the Apple iStore. So I've been fighting with them a little bit. But in regards to today and what we're going to be speaking about, we're going to get into the subject of probate, but specifically we're going to hit on a couple of more deeper issues. What are the executor duties for somebody who is been named the executor of a probated estate? What is the probate timeline? And how does court confirmation work when you're selling real property in probate? How does that actually work? What are the nuts and bolts of getting that done? And we're going to try to take away the mystery regarding probate in that regard. And I think a lot of people, buyers, sellers, also executors, when they're getting into this whole deal, it's something that you've never done before. And it's just nice to have a resource that'll give you some guidance to know what will happen. So probate can appear to be complicated and can be nerve-wracking, especially when it is unexpected. And you've never been through the process before. So that's just a fact. None of us, and I'll say that again, none of us are prepared for the probate process, even when we know a loved one or a friend may be coming close to the end of their life. It's just, even when you know it's coming, your parents have named you as the executor of the estate. When that happens, when a loved one passes away or a close family member or a friend, it just rocks your world. There's a lot of emotions that go into that, and you're dealing with that and the shock and then all of a sudden you're thrust onto the stage as being the person in charge of the estate. So even when you know a parent or a friend has named you, the effort and emotional turmoil that the probate process can take on a person, it can be tough. Okay, so but also wanted to reiterate this again. Probate is not just for people in their so-called fourth quarter of life. Maybe those in our midlives who have adult parents that are starting to age and maybe having health issues. But you can find yourself expectedly in a situation due to tragedy or accidents of younger people in your life, or you may be helping an elderly parent deal with the passing of a brother, sister, nephew, niece, or even a cousin. So you may be thrust onto the stage here sooner than you might expect. So let's do a quick review of how probate works before we dive into the duties of an executor, the timeline, and court confirmation. And just to be fair, I want to give credit to my source for this online, which was CaliforniaTrust.com. I have studied the probate process and I am certified in this, but to pull it all together and to be able to give you a nice summary and break it down for you in layman's terms, I also need a guide myself because it's not just sitting on the top of my head all the time. So I want to give a shout out to CaliforniaTrust.com for providing me with the information. So what is a probate? What is it exactly? I will define it for you right now. Probate is a legal proceeding that is used to wind up a person's legal and financial affairs after death. Okay, in California, probate proceedings are conducted in the Superior Court for the county in which the decedent lived and can take at least 8 months and sometimes as long as several years, depending on the size of the estate. Okay, so generally speaking, it's done in the court system, Superior Court, where the decedent lived at the time of their passing. So if the person passes away in Santa Clara County, it'd be Santa Clara County, and if it was San Benito, it'd be San Benito, and San Mateo, and so on and so forth. So what happens during a probate? Again, this is 30,000 feet. We're just kind of setting the stage to explain what the probate process is. So a person is nominated in the will as executor, files a petition with the Superior Court asking that he or she be appointed as executor. So normally what happens to cause a probate is that there is a will, however, there's no trust. And in California, if there's not a trust, generally speaking, you land in probate court. So then if you are already named in the will as the executor, you're going to still have to file a petition with the Superior Court of the county the person died in, asking that he or she be appointed as executor. If there is no will, which happens many times, people procrastinate, put it off, or there's a sudden tragic death that happens without a will being written, then the probate code provides a list of persons who have priority to petition to become administrator. Normally speaking, that would be people closest in relation to the person who just passed away, and then other family members. And if there are no other people, then it goes to close friends and so on and so forth. So the will also is filed with the petition, and notices are sent to the heirs and or relatives to let them know when the hearing will be held. So this is to let everybody know that there's a hearing that's going to take place so that somebody can petition to be the executor of the estate or file the will that shows that they're executor. At this time, people can come forth and either contest the person who is trying to come forward. So I'm being told we have 60 seconds. So we're going to move forward with one little other piece. If there are objections to the petition, or if the validity of the will is contested, the hearing will be used to resolve any problems that have arisen. So that is what I just spoke about. So when we get back from the break, we're going to continue in just this 30,000-foot overview of what probate is and how it works, and then we're going to get into the details of what an executor does and all the other pieces. So that's it for now. Stay tuned, and we'll be back in about 30 seconds. All right, for all you people that are watching me online, this will be recorded and it'll be up on Facebook and IG. IG tends to hold it temporarily. So if you're looking for this information later, feel free to hop over to my Facebook page at heartsandhomes.com. Again, heartsandhomes.com, and it will be resident on my Facebook page after the end of this live video session. And you can come back in later and listen to your heart's content or share with your friends. Share, share, share. Don't be afraid. All right, so we're going to jump back into the recorded version of the show on KFAX 1100, which will air. My shows air Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. on KFAX 1100 out of San Francisco. However, we're recording this show right now, and it probably is about a week's delay right now. So it will be coming up shortly. And by the time this airs, I think I will be on vacation or maybe just be getting back. So I want to wish my wife a very happy 50th birthday. Yes, yes. So anyway, all right, so we're going to get back to recording the show. You guys can't hear the sound effects, though. I got to figure this out with the engineer, how to pipe the sound effects into this machine that I'm using. Anyway, all right, so we're going to get going. I'm going to do the whirly bird sign. We're going to spin up. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. Glad you could join me this morning as we talk about the world of probate. We're going over this from 30,000 feet as a quick review before we delve into the details of what an executor's duties are in a probate and what the probate timeline is and how does court confirmation work when you're selling real estate under probate. So we were doing a quick review of how a person files with the court, superior court in the county the person has passed away in, is where, generally speaking, the probate jurisdiction is located. And then at that point, the person will come to the court with a petition and file it with an attorney's help to be named as the executor. Before the executor can do any duties involved with settling the estate, they have to be named. And so this is part of the court process that has to take place. And as we were saying, in some cases, there's objections to the petition or the validity of the will is contested. The hearing will be used to resolve any problems that have arisen. Additionally, in some cases, this may mean that the validity of the will is not upheld, or that some other person than the original petitioner is chosen to administer the estate. So if you have a contemptuous situation where maybe there's been a marriage for a very long time and then a remarriage and then there's a new wife and siblings, for instance, and the person has written a new will and named the new wife as the executor, and the siblings feel like the person that has been named as a new executor is not going to be fair to the kids that have been along a lot longer than the new wife. This can become contested in court if there was no trust and it's going to probate. This has been done before in celebrity issues. I think Anna Nicole Smith comes to mind. She was married to a very rich man, and she was named in a will by him, and the family came and contested this whole thing, and things came apart very quickly, and it became a long, drawn-out process. So this does happen normally in larger estates where there's a lot more money. In smaller estates where there's not much going on, it's not so much, but it can be contested. Okay, so in most cases, however, there is no objection and the petition is granted. The executor then makes an inventory of the estate's assets, locates creditors, pays bills. So now we're getting into the details of what an executor does. So I'm going to skip over that part in the overview. We'll get more into that in detail. But when all the duties of the executor are completed, another petition is filed just in a 30,000-foot level, filed with the court asking that the estate be distributed to the heirs. So there's a lot of stuff that happens from the petition of the executor, and then a bunch of duties are taking place over a long period of time, and then it's wound up at the end, and another petition is filed, and then the distribution of the assets is done to the heirs. If this petition is granted, the estate administered is completed by distribution of the assets to the heirs and filing final tax returns. So There are fees that are incurred for attorneys, and we can go into those details later. I will circle back around because I want to make sure that we get into the duties and other things in this show. Tends to go by a lot faster than I anticipate a lot of times. So we're going to skip through that. There is an appraisal of the estate that is done by a probate referee. And the reason that is done is because it relates back to the fees that are charged that can be charged by the executor in order to administer the estate and by attorneys, so that the attorneys aren't charging too much and it's capped. So estates are appraised by probate referees who are appointed by the state controller to determine the fair market value of the assets. And then probate referees receive a fee based on 0.1% of the assets that have been appraised. So there are caps on those fees. So we're just going through this at 30,000 feet before we jump into the details of the executor's duties. So let's jump into now advantages of probate and disadvantages of probate before we get into what are the executor's duties during the probate process. So the advantages of probate. The proceedings are controlled by a judge, okay? So we don't have a lot of infighting. There's a judge on the bench who listens to everybody's arguments and then makes a determination. So the proceedings are controlled by a judge who can decide disputes between heirs and between heirs and the executor, right? So if people can't get along, we have a judge that issues court orders and it's done, okay? Creditors are required to submit their claims against the estate within a 4-month period, provided they have been notified of the probate. And that's part of the executor duties, and we'll get into that as well. The executor is required in most cases to prepare an accounting and report of the executor's duties. So therefore, there's an audit trail and a list of everything that's been done that ties back to the estate, which is a good thing when you have a lot going on and there are multiple assets, multiple insurance policies, maybe a business, multiple properties. You want to have a detailed accounting of what's going on. And so that's an advantage of probate. A disadvantage of probate is, one, it's costly. The cost is usually much higher than would be required for the administration of a living trust for an estate valued at the same amount. So I kind of got fast with that, so I'm going to slow down a little bit and go back. So the disadvantages of probate is that the cost is usually much higher than would be required for the administration of a living trust for an estate valued at the same amount. It usually takes longer to probate in an estate than to administer a trust, because you have to go through the court system. Everything is through courts, and you're subject to their timeline and their schedule, and the courts are overcrowded. It can take sometimes up to 4 months just to get the initial petition filed. The courts are jammed, they don't have enough people doing the work, and it just takes a long time. And if you have an estate where there is money to be distributed, and you have loved ones or heirs that may be in a financial position that need help, then you are going to delay that financial assistance. So having a living trust so you can avoid probate is better to get it done quicker, or more quickly, as they would say. Most estates don't need the supervision of the court unless disputes occur. So that's the other disadvantage of a probate. And how do you avoid probate in California? A living trust. Short, easy answer, a living trust. That's just how it is. So if you want to avoid all of this, I would suggest entering into a living trust, or getting a living trust established with your will. And then on top of that, you need to make sure that you add whatever assets you have into the trust before time of passing. Because if you have a trust and you haven't populated the trust with those assets, it does you no good, and you will wind up in probate anyway. Okay? So if you have any questions about that, feel free to reach out to me at realestateconnection.com. realestateConnectionRadio.com. I keep forgetting the name of my website. I'm going to have to start writing it down myself. All right. So anyway, let's jump into estate executor's duties during the probate process. So the very first thing the executor does is reads your will. Okay, the executor also is in charge of expediting the burial instructions and process. So a lot of wills and living trusts will have details in them in regards to how the decedent wants to be buried, or how they want to, whether or not they want to be cremated, and things of that nature. So when the will is read, the executor is also in charge of carrying out the last wishes of the person who just passed away. The executor also meets members of the family and other interested parties who desire aid and information. They confer with the attorney who drew the will and persons familiar with financial affairs. So we're going to go into more details in regards to that as we continue reading through what the executor's duties are. So they're going to meet with everybody and basically tell them what's going on. If people have questions and want more information, they're the conduit for all of this. They meet with the attorney who drew the will to make sure that they're on track for doing exactly what needs to be done and acquiring additional information that they may need as it relates to your financial affairs. Okay, so the next step down in this executor duties probate process flowchart, which I do have available on my website, should you want a copy of it. You can reach out to me directly again at 408-472-0817, and I can get you a copy of this because I'm just reading through this for you. So the executor duties also safeguard your assets. Okay, so they safeguard the assets of the decedent. Takes such immediate protective measures as are desirable prior to appointment as executor. So they look into the insurance policies and protection of both the real and personal property. They secure knowledge of the decedent's ongoing business interests. They also examine all of the books and the files, and they give notice of your death to banks and safe deposit companies and others. So these are just some of the things as we start into this flowchart of what an executor does for you when you pass away, or what an executor does for the decedent when they pass away, either or. And when we get back from our break, we're going to get into the next piece, which is petitions the court for probate of your will, which we've already covered a little bit. So stay tuned, and we'll continue going down this list when we get back from the break. You guys can't hear the bumper music, but it's pretty good. One of these days, I'm going to have to plug into this thing better, and we'll get everything for you guys. All right, so we're going to do a quick break because I'm on a roll, and I think I just want to roll through this because there's a lot more we need to cover. Joel, how many more long segments do I have? Okay. So 2 long segments. So I need to get through the executor duties during the probate process and the probate timeline. And then we're going to jump into how does the court confirmation process work? And that's one whole page. So bear with me. I'm getting set up. All right. You can spin me back up. Let's get through this because Mark's been watching the whole time, and I want to make sure that he gets his money's worth. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. Thanks for sticking with me this morning as we discuss probate and what probate is from 30,000 feet. We did a short overview of the probate process, what causes it. Basically is that you do not have a living trust in the state of California and you just have a will. That is enough to trigger probate. Dun, 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 that's right. And after that, whoever's named in the will as the executor has to petition the court to become the executor. If there is no one named, or if there is no will, then the nearest heirs then still have to go through this probate process and petition the court. You're also going to need to get yourself a good probate attorney. And I think one of these shows in the future will bring a probate attorney on and do an interview with them and kind of go through what their duties are in regards to helping and assisting people go through the probate process in the state of California. Ooh, that's right. And, you know, getting an attorney to speak to me for a whole hour for free, that's a miracle in and of itself. But hopefully my listeners will reach out to them and maybe provide them with some business in exchange for their time. Ching, that's right. So let's go back through and get back into the estate and the executor's duties during the probate process. So this relates to if you are the decedent, if you're naming an executor and you're in the process of putting together a will. These are the duties that the person that you name in your will and trust will do for you as an executor of your estate. If you don't have a trust, it'd just be the will. And if you're looking at it from the perspective of a person's already passed, this is what an executor will do for the decedent. So we've gone through that they'll safeguard the assets after death, but then they'll also petition the court for probate of your will. So what they'll do is they obtain proof of heirship if they are an heir. They'll locate witnesses through attorney for the estate. They petition for probate of the will, and they and from time to time applies for necessary court orders and administrations of the estate. They become appointed as the executor, and they file an oath of office as the executor of the estate, and order in administration of the estate. An appointment is filed an oath of office. So basically, what that basically means is they're going to file with the court, and they're going to get a letter. They're going to get a letter from the court. They call it a letter testamentary letter that gets filed back from the court that basically says you, John Smith, or you, Jane Doe, are the executor of this estate. And then at that point, you move forward in doing the duties of the executor of the estate. Like I said, courts are backlogged, and this can take about 4 months to happen. I've spoken to other people going through this process, and they've petitioned for this executor title and gone to the court and had the court say, sorry, you forgot to dot an I on this piece of paper, or our court is backed up and we're going to have to continue it another 4 months. And it can take sometimes up to 8 months just to get into the court, just to get this petition filed. So it's way better, I think, to go through the trust process. Okay, so what else is on the list of duties? They assemble and inventory all of your assets. Okay, that's a big deal, especially if you're dealing with any type of medium-sized estate in the state of California. Anybody who owns a home here or has some sort of stock or bonds or insurance policies, inventorying that is not an easy thing to do. You have to contact a lot of people in different locations, call insurance companies, get an idea of brokerage accounts, and let people know what's going on. It just takes a lot of time. So they take proper steps to collect policies of life insurance. They secure tax waivers and collect all cash. They inventory and appraise household goods and effects and remove valuables to vault. So that means, say, for instance, in the house, they're going to go through and find a lot of things that may be very valuable in the house. Say, for instance, you have a gold coin collection and you pass away, and they go in and they find it. They're going to need to take it out of the house and put it in a safe place to keep. And they're going to inventory and have to value all these assets. And sometimes the court gets involved with valuing the assets as well in the probate process, and the court referee will come in and help do that. They press all claims for amounts due, and they locate evidence and witnesses on contested claims. So that is in regards to people who might have claims to the assets, people who might owe money to, and bills of that nature. They also arrange for proper supervision and management for your ongoing business interests. So, for instance, maybe you own a small restaurant or a distribution company or a machine shop in town. The executor of the estate is going to have to arrange proper supervision and management for your ongoing business interests. They also obtain custody of securities, and collect all interest and dividends. So if you have a brokerage account, you might have stocks that are individually owned or bonds that are individually owned, or you may have some sort of investment accounts and 401ks and things of that nature. They also inspect inspect the condition of leases, taxes, mortgages of real estate, and arrange for management if you have other real estate. So for instance, if you've passed away or the person has passed away, or you own your primary residence and you may own maybe a small strip mall or maybe a fourplex or things of that nature, they're going to go ahead and help manage those investments for you. Okay, so that's just part of it. And then we're going to continue to move down the line as it comes into what other duties your executor will do for you when you pass away or for the person who has passed away. They will also administer procedures for appraisal of all of your assets. So they gather complete and satisfactory evidence of the value of all assets at the date of passing. They continue to administer the estate in other ways. It's governed by the wishes expressed in your will, the requirements of your estate, and local probate law. So again, the will dictate how the rest of your estate is managed moving forward. So it gives special study to valuable collections, determines method and time of sale for articles not bequeathed to others, makes a careful estimate of amount of cash to be raised for payment of taxes, legacies and expenses of administration, and of probate net estate for distribution. So that's a lot right there. I'm not sure if I raised this as well. If it is a large estate and not something that's going to take a small amount of time, executors do have the right to be paid out of the estate for administering and doing these duties. Say, for instance, you're middle-aged, late 40s or early 50s, and you're still working full-time, and maybe a mom or dad passes away, and you have to administrate a large estate, and your siblings are counting on you to do this. It's going to pull you away from your job. It's going to pull you away from your family because you're basically just been employed another full-time job. So the probate law does outline that you can collect payment for doing these duties because it does take a lot of time and it's very time consuming. I was just told I had 2 minutes, so we're going to keep going. So it gives exhaustive study to your business interests and determines policy of continuance, liquidation, or sale with due regard to expressions in your will, carries out or adjusts incomplete contracts. So that's a lot too if you have a small business that the executor has to administer. It makes comprehensive review of market conditions for each security to decide which should be sold first, if necessary to meet taxes, expenses, claims, and specific bequests. 1 minute, we're going to keep rolling. Investigates all real estate from a standpoint of earnings, market, and desirability in case circumstances require its sale. The executor pays your income taxes and makes all your tax returns. So an intricate and involved procedure in which particular forms of information and return must be prepared and filed with each taxing body. All right, we're down to 30 seconds. So at the end of this break, we're going to come back and we're going to finish the duties of an executor of a probate, and then we're going to jump into how does court confirmation work when you're selling real property in a probate. Stay with me and we'll be back. Are we getting dings? That's cool. That's all good. Oh, you know what it is? It's my computer. My phone is on silent. It's my computer. I got five I got 5 text messages while I'm doing the show, and it's popping up on my computer screen and distracting the living daylights out of me. Woo! Okay, we have just silenced the computer, and I will explain that when we get back from the break, so people will know what's all that dinging in the background. What is he like at a restaurant? Order up. Okay, spin me up. Let's go. Hey, welcome back to the show, everybody. Welcome back. We are going through the probate process today, and we're looking at it from another perspective. We did a 30,000-foot overview last time I spoke about probate, but today we're going through what the estate executor's duties are during the probate process, and we're almost done with those. And this is a 10-minute segment, and 10 minutes goes by really quickly. So I'm just going to jump right back in to what those duties are so that we'll have time to go through how does the court confirmation process work when you're selling real property in the probate process, and court confirmation is required. So we were going through what an executor does in regards to tax returns. They make all your tax returns after date of death. An intricate and involved procedure in which particular forms of information and return must be prepared and filed with each taxing body. So they're going to pay your inheritance and estate taxes as well. They're going to tend to income tax for part of the year prior to death. They're going to file returns and pay tax for part of the year after your death. And then they ascertain and pay inheritance tax in state of residence, obtains waivers for transfer of securities. So when you're transferring securities over to people who inherit them, they're going to obtain waivers for that so that they're not taxed. And they're going to arrange for necessary proceedings to release securities of property located in other states, because you may own securities not located in California. They're also going to settle all proper claims. So publishes notices to creditors, obtains all available evidence regarding propriety of each claim filed, resists all improper claims. So people will come out of the woodworks and claim that you owe them money after date of death, and they're going to resist those claims and not pay them if they're not proper, and pays out of estate funds all approved and allowed claims. So this sometimes is what triggers the sale of real property in an estate, is when an estate is cash poor and there are a lot of debts associated with an estate. Once the executor gets their executive privilege filed with the court, and they're now named as the executor of the probate, they're going to send out a notice to the creditors. When the creditors find out that a person has passed, they're going to submit all their claims for past bills, and this may include medical expenses for long hospital stays or long-term health care or long-term care in facilities. If those bills have not been paid and they come into the estate and the estate is short on cash, it may be necessary to sell the real property in the estate immediately in order to get the cash out of it to settle the claims that are being sent against the estate or the bills. They're also going to make a careful survey of all possible tax claims to see that no further liability exists upon review by the government. After all that's said and done, they distribute your probate estate. So they'll prepare data for final accounting showing in detail all receipts and disbursements, notifies interested persons of hearing on account. After settlement of account by court, distributes remaining property of your estate as directed by the court. And then they will obtain final discharge. So after that, after final payment is in distribution to legalities and devisees and securities and blah, 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 and this and that. So that's basically it. It's a it's a lot of things that need to be covered. It takes a lot of time and takes you away from your life. And so therefore, executors should be compensated when necessary. All right, so let's jump into how does court confirmation work when we're selling real property in a probated estate. So court confirmation only happens when an executor has not been granted full authority by the court. And what does that mean? When you file the petition as executor of an estate, the court will either give you partial authority or they'll give you full authority. If they give you full authority, generally speaking, you can go ahead and list the property for sale and sell it without the court being involved in confirmation. But when you've been giving partial authority, either because the heirs have disputed your executivness, executor duties, so to speak, or there's some sort of claim saying that they don't trust you, and the court says, okay, fine, we're going to monitor how everything is distributed. You may only have partial authority. And in that instance, when real estate is sold, then you will be required to have a court confirmation of sale through the sales process. So with court confirmation, an appraisal of the property, of the real property, of the house, whatever is being sold that's real estate, needs to happen before the house is listed for sale. Because the appraisal is the basis of the asking price of the house or the real property. If it's commercial or if it's a fourplex or a duplex, whatever it is, an appraisal has to happen. The property must sell at a minimum of 90% of the appraised value. Okay, so with court confirmation, before the property can be listed for sale, there is an appraisal process that has to happen. And then once that appraisal process has happened and the price and an appraised value has been determined, at least 90% of the appraised value must be sold for. So after the appraisal is performed, the executor petitions the court to sell the real estate. Once that petition has been accepted by the court, the property then can be listed for sale as a probate sale with court confirmation required. So at that point, the house can go on the market. It will be listed with probate paperwork. There is a special listing paperwork for probate and special disclosures when probate is involved, and it also there are special paperwork just for selling a house out of an estate anyway, whether it's a trust or a probate. So it'll go on the market for sale. Once the house is on the market and an offer is received and accepted by the executor, because the executor does have the authority to accept an offer, a court hearing is scheduled. Okay, so that's the hearing that would then confirm the sale of the house. But prior to this court hearing happening, the house must be continued to be advertised for sale at whatever the accepted offer price is on the MLS and in a local newspaper. So for buyers, this can be nerve-wracking, okay? Because you've fallen in love with the house. It requires court confirmation. You've decided to go for it. You've submitted an offer. It's been accepted by the executor, and now you have to wait for court confirmation. But between the time your offer is accepted until the court confirmation date actually occurs, the listing agent will still advertise the property for sale, but it's going to be known to the entire world what your offer was accepted at, okay? Because it's going to be advertised at that price, and it'll be done on the MLS and a newspaper, and that allows other buyers to come in at the date of the confirmation hearing and try to outbid you, okay? So the house must be continued to be advertised for sale at the accepted offer price in the local paper. So while waiting for the hearing, like we just said, it's being advertised. This alerts buyers to the hearing and the opportunity to bid for the house at the hearing. So if there are additional buyers at the court hearing to bid, there is a formalized bidding process. So this is where we get into rumors versus reality, okay? So there is a formalized process. It isn't like some auction where the court just starts auctioning off the house. There is a definite process that needs to take place when that happens. The first bid is started at 105% of the accepted offer amount plus $500, okay? So if the house had an offer come in at it for $100,000, it'd be 105%, so 5% of 100,000. I can't do math in my head, so whatever that is, I think $5,000, so $105,000 plus 500, so 105,500 would be the first opening bid. Then the court sets the next bidding amounts, usually at $5,000 or $10,000 intervals. At the end of the hearing, the final buyer is confirmed by the court. Then the executor can complete the sales process. So it can be nerve-wracking for buyers because you're not sure if someone's going to show up at the court and try to overbid your offer amount. If no one shows up, there is no bidding process. The court will then just confirm that the amount is at least 90% of the appraised value or higher, and if it is, they'll rubber stamp the offer and they'll move forward with completing the sale. However, if you've got an incredibly good deal and the market's been kind of low and it's 90% of the appraised value, there might be people that want to step in and try to bid. However, I've been through this process once and no one showed up, but it doesn't mean that it couldn't happen in the future. So that's how it works in a nutshell. And that's it. So what's the best thing to do? Avoid the probate process altogether. Get yourself a living trust, have it in place so you don't have to go through this probate process. So when we get back from the break, it's our short segment. We're going to wrap up today's show, and then we'll talk about all of this when I get back. All right, so we're going to head into the last 5-minute segment here, people. And I'm going to jump into this probate timeline. It's pretty quick. And then if you have any questions, again, about probate, how it works in the state of California, how to avoid it. If you don't have a will and a trust, get one. We never know when things can happen. Otherwise, your heirs will have to go through this lengthy probate process that costs a lot of money and takes a lot of time. And it's one of those things where the enemy's at the gate and you know it. You know for a fact that the state of California is knocking on the front door when someone passes away. So it's up to you how you defend it. If you know the enemy's coming, then be prudent and defend against it early. Get things in place and make sure that you're protected. All right, so my engineer across the glass, Joel's going to spin me back up and we're going to go back live. Well, actually recorded. You guys are live. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show with your certified probate and real estate specialist. I love that tagline. That's very cool. And today we are talking about probate. We've just gone through a 30,000-foot overview of what the probate process is. We've gone through what an executor's duties are, and we've also covered how does the court confirmation process work when you're selling real property that is in probate and the court is confirming the sale. Yes. So to wrap up the show, I'm going to quickly go through the probate timeline just so you have an idea of how long all this stuff takes. Okay, so step one is prepare and file a petition for probate. That usually takes 1 to 2 months, but I would say that that's not true in Santa Clara County. I would say probably 4 months is the norm because the courts are backed up. A court hearing on the petition for the probate is probably 4 to 6 months out. And then after the letters of administration or orders for probate, duties and liability are issued, or what we call letters testamentary are issued for it can take 2 to 4 months after the hearing happens to get that letter that says, hey, you're the executor, move forward. After you receive that letter, you're going to send out a notice to creditors for the estate. That'll take 2 to 4 months. And then you're going to send notice to the Department of Health Services, inventory and appraisement regarding the death of the decedent. That's going to take 4 to 8 months. To pay state and federal taxes if necessary for the estate, that'll be 6 to 12 months depending on when the person passed away. You're going to pay a partial year for the year they were alive and partial year for the year that they had passed away. Claims of exemption for minors, if there's an exemption to the estate, 6 to 15 months. To receive final tax letters from the state and federal government agencies, that can take 6 months to 18 months. And to file the petition for final distribution and accounting, that can take anywhere, I would say, this piece of paper says 8 to 16 months, but I would actually say 12 months to 24 months usually to get any kind of probate taken care of. Any kind of estate to get settled in the state of California, no matter how big it is or how small it is, usually takes about a year. Distribution of assets to heirs, this is the biggie. This is the big key. That's probably about a year and a half to 2 years out. Unless you can petition the court to do a partial distribution early, if there's financial need of the heirs. And final discharge orders for the probate case in the estate, again, about 2 years, a year to 2 years. And final distribution of all funds, the same, about a year to 2 years. I have these timelines are available on my website at realestateconnectionradio.com. There is a link at the top of that website that is a probate website specifically for probate for my business. And if you go there to that link, once you go to realestateconnectionradio.com, at the top, you'll see a link for probate. If you click on that, it'll take you to my probate site. And on my probate site, there's some testimonials from people that I've served for probate, and also a link for the estate executor's duties during the probate process. You'll see a flow chart. I'm showing this on my Instagram and my Facebook page. There's the flow chart I was reading from. And then here's also the probate timeline. You can see that. You can download that from the site as well. And if you have any specific questions regarding something that you're going through specifically, since this is more of a general overview, feel free to reach out and contact me regarding any issues related to real estate in the probate process. I want to thank you for joining for today's show. If you have any topics that you'd like for me to cover in the future, please reach out to me as well at realestateconnectionradio.com. And I appreciate you spending your time with me. I had a good time this morning sharing, and I look forward to next week's show. It's a mystery. Haven't thought about what it's going to be, so stay tuned, and we'll be seeing you next week. All right, for all my live peeps that have joined me today, I hope you found the information helpful. If you missed any part of the program, it is recorded today on my Hearts and Homes feed for Facebook. And once I end the live session, it will be resident there. You can go back and replay it anytime. Or if you know of anyone who would be interested in the information, please share, please like. Please share. Hit the like button, hit the share button, hit the like button, hit the share button, get it out to everybody. I'm just trying to get out information to people that can be helpful. Maybe there's somebody out there who's going through this process right now that could use some guidance, and I'd be happy to help them out as well. Thank you very much for joining me today, and I'm out on both IG and I'm out on Facebook. See you guys later.